Season's greetings. Judy the YouTube lawyer here with a special episode that's been requested from one of my subscribers, a young attorney whose channel is called Compete With Yourself. So she asked me if I could create a video giving some tips on how to deal with problem clients or difficult clients. So here it goes, based on more than 20 years of legal practice. The first thing when you're dealing with difficult people is to stay calm. Don't take it personally. I know it's easy to say, but it's hard to put into practice, but you want to come across as someone who is calm and assured. You're not going to give back to the client the bad behaviors that they try to dump on you. So try to stay calm. Don't raise your voice at them. Definitely do not curse at your client. Number 2 is to be quiet and listen actively. So normally when somebody is all hyped up, yelling, crying, screaming at you, it's because they are feeling very stressed out and powerless. So you need to listen to them, do not interrupt them, let them have their say so you can see why they are upset. Next, you want to actively listen to their problem and also try to repeat back to them what you understand the problem to be. So this can probably help calm down most people when they feel like you're really understanding them and you're on the same wavelength, because people don't want you to argue back at them or just immediately dismiss their concerns. Even though in the back of your head, you might be thinking, this person is crazy, they just keep saying the same thing. I already explained to them why this thing can't be done. But that's not what you say to your client. Instead, you need to listen to them, just kind of soak it all in, and then try to repeat back to them using words like, I understand. So the problem is that blank. So you're concerned that blank. And then you basically parrot back what the person has been screeching, yelling, or crying to you about. That way the person can maybe calm down a little bit and feel like you are understanding them and you're on their side. So there's no need for them to take out their aggressions at you. You're just somebody there that is supposed to help them. So the next step is to avoid accusatory statements towards the person. So I'm assuming this person is a paying client. So of course it behooves you to have a good relationship with the person, try to calm them down so that they don't feel like ditching you as an attorney, or worse yet, complaining about you to the state bar, or leaving negative comments about you and your firm on the internet. So do not make accusatory statements that typically start with you, like you need to calm down, you need to understand, you need to realize I can't create a miracle, So don't use these accusatory you statements unless you really, really need to, but even then, don't raise your voice and try not to put it in a hostile tone, because that will typically only inflame the situation. So instead of having these kind of accusatory statements, you can flip it around and make it seem more conciliatory, as if, hey, we're on the same team together. Let's try to resolve this problem now that you have vented to me. So next step would be to say things like, how can we resolve this? What would you like me to do? How do you think we should handle this? What about this idea? How about if I blankety blank? Give some sort of possible solution. Like, would you like it if I did this? Okay, so kind of revert the attention to yourself now as to how you're going to help that person solve their problem and calm them down and assuage them. Make them feel like they are being heeded to, that you still really care about them, and you're going to get them through this difficult time. So those are the kinds of statements that you can make in response to an angry client or someone that is just ranting and railing at you, to keep your cool. Just try not to take it personally. Know that this person probably has a lot of issues, a lot of baggage going on, and you only know half the facts or half the story. The other side obviously could have a totally different side of the story. So there's no need for you to also get really upset and riled up and have your whole day ruined because of this one client. Now, of course, if you want to make your life easier, it starts from the beginning when you pre-screen your clients before people even become your client at the law firm. Okay, so these are very important red flags that you should watch out for. And perhaps sometimes it's better not to even accept somebody to be your client if you see these types of red flags. Okay, number one, the person is rude to you or to your staff. That's terrible. You know, if they're rude to you from the start, or they are rude to the person who answers your phone or your legal assistant, anybody at your office, then take that as a hint that things are only going to get worse, you know, because at the beginning, you've barely had any contact with the person. If they're already coming in just being rude and arrogant, being disrespectful, then that is a huge red flag that you don't want somebody like that to be your client anyway. Because like I said, things can only get worse. Sometimes people come in, they seem totally nice and professional, but they'll just flip on you at the drop of a hat. So I've seen that happen many times, unfortunately. Number two, another red flag is that the person does not want to pay, or they try to bargain down your fee. So that's a big red flag, because litigation is expensive, divorce is expensive, pretty much any sort of court proceeding has a tendency to get a lot more complicated than you think it's going to be. So don't try to give any sort of like set parameters as to, oh yeah, we can definitely get this done for less than $3,000. You know, don't give any sort of guarantees like that. It's typically better to charge by the hour and make sure you get a good retainer deposit up front for hourly work. The only time I would charge a flat fee would be something that is totally discreet, that is very predictable, and still have parameters in your legal representation agreement, just basically saying this only covers, for example, the absolute divorce with a filing fee, assuming that your spouse can be served by certified mail. And you know, clearly the representation agreement should also say that this only covers the work specified. So if any additional work is needed, then that will be the subject of a separate legal representation agreement. Okay, the third red flag that I like to mention is that the person is hyper emotional. So that kind of goes along with the first thing that I mentioned, being rude to you or to staff from the beginning. Someone that comes right in and starts crying in your office, or screaming or yelling, or totally trash talking the other party, or trash talking their previous attorney. Those are all complete red flags that this person is probably going to be very difficult to work with, never going to be satisfied, and they're going to turn on you also. Eventually, you will be the brunt of all their anger and their misery. So take heed there. Okay, so I think we're on the fourth one. That touches on if the person already had another attorney or multiple attorneys before coming to you. So that usually gives me the feeling that the person is already difficult to work with, that they can't be satisfied, they don't want to listen to their attorney's advice, and they're going to act like that with you. So unless it's an attorney that I've heard of multiple times who is like, quote, a slacker, or doesn't communicate well with his or her clients, or doesn't follow through, disorganized, you know, sometimes you do hear about the same attorneys and people are complaining about them. So in that case, maybe I would be like, okay, sure, you know, I'd be glad to take over your case. But by and large, it's not a good thing if the person comes in already having at least 1, 2, 3, 4 other attorneys, or they say that they've already talked to other attorneys and they're just shopping around or something, or they're really mad because their other attorney didn't do anything. So let's see. So what can you do to deal with difficult clients, these people that might have red flags shooting out from all over the place, but you can't get rid of the client because maybe there's already a hearing coming up really soon, so you can't withdraw? Or perhaps you are an attorney working for a firm where you don't have the discretion to get rid of clients. You just have to deal with those clients anyway, even if you personally dislike them and dread working on their case. Well, my first recommendation would be to exercise. You know, have some form of stress relief in your life that doesn't involve sitting in the office or doing something bad for yourself, like drinking, eating, taking drugs, things like that. So I highly recommend exercise. It will help you take out your aggressions. If you need to, get a punching bag, punch out all your aggressions. Take up running, weightlifting. For me, it was mostly figure skating, where I could really take my mind off of all the stress and all my clients' problems, because when you're skating, you really have to pay attention to where you're going, what you're doing, you know, the balance. everything having to do with yourself while you're skating. So it's kind of hard to think about client problems when you're skating, trying to do a spin or a jump or just having fun. So do some sort of exercise. It'll really help you in the long run. The second recommendation is to think about switching practice areas. So I've mentioned it before in my previous videos that there are a lot of attorneys who tell me they would never ever handle divorce and family law cases, child custody cases. They would rather just be unemployed than handle family law cases. So that does happen to be like a very high stress, high conflict practice area. So if you really can't stand whatever practice area of law you're doing, then think about how are you going to get out of it by switching over to something that is less conflict ridden, such as trying to do like wills or estate planning, or giving tax advice if you're qualified to do that. There are plenty of other transactional opportunities and other areas of law where you don't have to be going into court and fighting with angry opposing counsel and angry clients and crazy pro se people all the time. So think about switching practice areas. It can be done. The third idea is to definitely for long-term plans, this is exactly why you need to save for retirement. Save as much money as you can, because that's sort of like your way out of all this craziness, is to make sure that you're saving regularly in regular investments as well as in your retirement accounts, because once you finally do have enough money, then you will be secure. You'll be able to have more control over which clients you want to handle or clients you want to tell to go away, because you're not going to deal with their crazy case anymore. So that kind of freedom is just really priceless. And the way to get that kind of freedom is to make sure that you are regularly saving for yourself and planning for your retirement, so that one day this can all be over and you can breeze on into a wonderful, relaxing retirement without dealing with all the stress of potential crazy clients anymore. So if you have any other questions for me, feel free to leave a comment. Let me know if you have any other ideas for future videos. I really appreciate everybody's support. Hope you guys are all staying safe and enjoying the holiday season.